This premier edition of Cuba Cerita hosts a leader who helped deliver some of the nation's key infrastructure at a time when Malaysia was at the height of economic development. Of notable mention, the LRT train systems and second bridges to Penang and Singapore. Please join me in welcoming Dato Ridza Abdoh, Berani, Kerana, Benar, the DNA of nation builders. Assalamualaikum and a very good welcome everyone to our leadership podcast, Cuba Cerita. I'm Coach Azman and we are actually lucky because today is going to be our premiere episode of our leadership podcast. So it's our pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. And the launch series is themed the DNA of nation builders. So obviously when you think about nation building, it's around building highways, bridges and the like. But our series is not just going to be about that. But to kickstart our series, we have a special guest, someone who's known to some of you, maybe not to all of you. So we're going to introduce Dato Ridza Abdoh Haji Salleh. Assalamualaikum, Dato. How are you?
Salam. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dato, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
When we came up with this idea of what would be a good theme for our launch series, the DNA of nation builders, you immediately came to my mind.
Oh, thank you.
So, I'm really happy that you agreed to join us.
Yeah.
Can I maybe ask you, what was your first thought in mind when I asked you about joining us for this program?
Oh, I feel very honored, very honored, and of course I like to support your program, and I think maybe there's certain thing that I can share with people, and why not? So I think, yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
So, what we're going to do is just going to chat.
Yeah.
And actually, it's all around us understanding more about you as a person. Alhamdulillah, there's so many achievements and accolades that you can talk of. But what I think is important for the listeners and viewers is if they can get a feel of what you are like, which can hopefully resonate with them, irrespective of the times. Of course, we were talking about a long time ago when you were building all the infrastructure and so on and so forth. But today, it's a different type of challenge. So maybe to begin with, in terms of getting to know you, boleh tak Datuk cerita sikit? Asal usul daripada mana? What was your childhood like in those days? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I was born in Penang.
Okay.
And then I moved to Perak because my father was working in Perak. So we moved to Perak, and my father was headmaster of a school, a religious school in Perak. Then I spent most of my primary time school in Ipoh. Then when my father retired, then we moved to Penang.
Penang kat mana tu?
Penang dekat Dhoby Ghat, near the hospital.
So in the city lah.
In the city.
Okay.
But when my father was working, I think we had a comfortable life. But little did we know that we're going to go through some very tough experience. Because after my father passed away, there's not much there's no income. We become almost zero in terms of revenue or income to our family.
In spite of being a headmaster?
Yeah, because my father joined the government quite late, so therefore his pension is very, very small. So,
and how many of you were in the family?
There were 9 of us, but the rest have gone to work in not to say work. They're still studying in universities and things like that. So left is 5 of us.
Okay.
And we don't have any income. I believe it's only 150 ringgit a month my sister sent to my mother.
MashaAllah.
So because of that, I think for 4 years I went to school without a single cent in my pocket.
Really?
So I never know the canteen also, even until today. I didn't know where the canteen is. So that was a time when I would say taught me a lot of things that, I went through what I call urban poverty. Urban poverty. Urban poverty. We live in Penang. It's an urban area, and my mother was a housewife, never experienced orang kata nak jual kuih ke apa ke, tak pandai. So jadi sometime when I go to school without any breakfast. Then when I came home also there's no lunch waiting until my mother would cook at about 3 o'clock. So that we eat about once a day lah.
Wow.
So that I would say some darkest moment in my life lah. And I think many people also have got experience in the darkest moment in their life. But that was my.
And if you were to sort of like reflect on those times, I guess you don't talk about it every day, right? Maybe even with the family today.
Yeah.
Tapi kalau Datuk rasa ada tak satu dua kenangan from that time yang maybe in reflection may have shaped the way that you then grew up and maybe even started to move into your adult life?
Yeah, of course, because I was determined that I don't want to go through that again because it's very tough. In fact, after my SPM, we finished SPM in December. Then to continue our study, the university opened maybe a bit later, June or July, something like that, So I was determined also to try and get myself to go overseas.
Okay.
Then I was running around to look for places where I can go and find food. So I went to UTK to study, and then I remember when the registrar called me, I got an offer to go to UK. So the registrar called me. He said, if you know that you're going overseas, why you come to UTK? So ITK at that time, sorry. So I just put my head down because there's no point explaining to him that I came here for food.
Oh, really?
Not so much for for the study, whatever it is, So that was it. I mean, but when I managed to go to UK to continue my study, then I think the rest was history, I would say. So
I see. So
my life, my family life also, when there are less people at home, then I think they are with 150 ringgit, they can live better. So I went overseas. I have my scholarship. So basically that was, I would say, the darkest moment in my life. Which, since you asked me, I never tell people actually.
Sorry.
But anyway, that was.
But thank you, Datuk, for sharing. And I guess these are kenangan yang orang kata apa, help to shape us.
Yes,
and
correct.
I guess as a father, grandfather, you sort of like have to see sort of like those same sort of values lah.
True.
I mean, valuing the simplest things in life, I guess.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so you graduated as an engineer?
Yes, I graduated as an engineer.
Were you a scholar?
Yeah, I was a scholar.
Government scholar.
And then came back and I joined JKR.
Okay.
JKR spent about 14 years in JKR.
14 years.
14 years.
Okay.
So and then after that I got an offer to join Renong Group.
Okay.
Then I joined Renong Group and
then eventually all the project.
Yes.
So I guess graduating from university, joining JKR in those days was actually quite a big thing lah kan? Is there any one or two particular memories also of your time, even starting out in those days that maybe now thinking about it helped to shape how you were in the later parts of your career?
Yes. Okay. When I was in JKR, I think initially I was a bit relaxed. I didn't see much prospect or the future so much, just happy-go-lucky kind of things. But then I was seconded to Prime Minister Department.
Wow.
That was after 1 year working, then I was seconded to Prime Minister Department. I was attached to ICU, they call it.
And ICU is?
ICU is Implementation Coordination Unit of the Prime Minister Department.
Of the Department, okay.
So the two things that I saw in ICU, I think the people in ICU work very, very hard, which is, I think, not many people think that the people in the government would work that kind of hard, that hard in the government, because most of us, I think, when we work there, we go back at about 8 o'clock.
Wow.
in the evening, 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. Nobody go back at 4:30, things like that. No, everybody almost work, and some even sleep in the office, because we have a lot of papers to write and to give to the Prime Minister and things like that. So the dedication of the people in the Prime Minister Department was, I was very impressed. Then I was lucky also, because I was during the time when the transition between Tun Mahathir and Tun Hussein on.
Oh, okay.
So when Tun Mahathir came into the office,
This is around like 81, I think.
I think so, it's about that, if I'm not mistaken. So Tun Mahathir came to the office. Then I also feel that there is a change in our environment. Then,
For example,
one day I decided to sneak into the recording room of the cabinet meeting. So we have a recording room, So I get close to the people who are in charge of the room. So I requested for them to allow me to go in. So they allow me to go in, but of course it's supposed to be confidential. It's not supposed to be, Then when I saw the meeting myself, chaired by Dr. Mahathir, the Prime Minister, then he was implementing a lot of things like Perwaja, Proton Saga, and things like that. I think it was a very courageous kind of policy. The country at that time was very poor. We were very poor actually, because when I flew to London, I looked at from the aeroplane. I saw Kuala Lumpur. It was like a kampung.
Yeah.
So actually, but we didn't realize that because we were down.
And this is from the old Subang Airport,
yes,
too?
correct.
Right.
So we were a small country, but Dr. Mahathir was very courageous. In fact, I was also involved in if you remember, the British Last. So I was the first officer in charge of the paper on this Buy British Last. To my surprise, actually, it's not a Buy British Last. It was don't buy British at all. So,
and I think at that time also, the Look East policy also was being formulated.
A bit later, Look East policy kicks in. So I think at that time we were also debating whether Dr. Mahathir policy was right in terms of Perwaja, Porton Saga and things like that. So the debate started even way back at that time. Not only now, whatever it is.
So Dato, I mean, I was just quite intrigued by you mentioning you went into a room and you were able to watch the proceedings of a cabinet meeting.
Almost like it's a Majlis Tindakan Negara actually.
And obviously it's high security and
nobody is allowed.
Nobody is actually allowed. So what is it about you that? How do I say this? What is it about you that would want to do those sort of things? What are you intrigued about? What are you curious about? Did you know what you're going into?
Not really. Just because I can see the environment has changed after Dr. Mahathir came in. And we were initially busy writing papers or presenting report to the Prime Minister. Whenever Prime Minister want to visit anywhere, like he want to visit telecom, we had to prepare paper.
Okay.
So that he knows what is the issues in telecom, for example. But when he came in, we were basically like jobless. Nobody asked us to write report anymore. So I say, what happened to,
Because?
But we don't know. It's just Dr. Mahathir at that time, as a Prime Minister, he was executing a lot of policy. And we were not actually utilised as much as Masa Hussein on. So I think there was a change. So that prompted me to go in and watch. Then in the meeting, of course, I saw a lot of discussion, and I think it was then I begin to see things from a different perspective, Say, it's not very, I was very lucky because you got to see how to run the country from the deck.
Wow.
Yeah. You saw yourself how they run the country. So that's how I think it developed some kind of it sort of shaped my mentality also in a way, how to look at things from the top rather than just looking from the bottom.
Right.
So that's
amazing.
it.
Those are very important and formative years
Very
of the industrialization of the
correct,
country.
correct.
So you were just on an assignment and you eventually spent time in JKR
Then
for
after
14
that,
years.
after that, I came back to JKR.
Okay.
Then when I came back to JKR, I was a bit disappointed when I see a lot of projects were delayed, and I was in the Prime Minister's Department, we were talking about a lot of things, and suddenly when I go back to JKR, there's the project are delayed, and the famous word then was they call sick project,
Sick projects.
sick projects, and out of 10 projects, maybe 9 are sick, 9 are sick, so the funny thing was, macam schools project, I was in charge. And the school was built quite fast when we award the project. Bila sampai ke Bumbung, they stop. Sampai ke Bumbung, they stop. And the contractor is nowhere to be seen.
Lari.
And then we look for the contractor, then they never come and things like that. So this problem was quite rampant. The reason is because the Bumi Putra contractor got it and they sub it to the Chinese contractor. And when the Chinese contractor sort of took the job, and then when they finished with the money, then I think they just leave the job.
So leave the building without a roof.
I mean, basically without the roof lah, to the roof level lah. Basically,
so project terbengkalai lah tu.
That's right, project terbengkalai lah. Of course, with other things also lah. Tapi that is quite rampant. So because of that, I said, something wrong with our policy. I mean, I came from the Prime Minister's Department. I saw a lot of policy being generated. So I said, then I studied the policy. Then that prompted me to, and then when we discussed among us, a lot of engineers are complaining, why JKR policy procedure is like this and like that. I say, why don't we write? Why don't we tell the top management, and we just write to them and tell them what's wrong? But nobody is willing to write. Everybody's complaining. So then I decided to write. I said, let me write the paper and present the paper to the management and see what they say,
So you wrote a paper?
I wrote the paper. And presented to the top management to be presented in the senior officer conference.
Okay.
Then there will be about 300 of the senior officers or the district engineer will attend. And then and I was very when they received my paper, some of the directors were not happy because they say that this paper can instigate the
problem for them.
The engineers and things like that to be and they may infuriate the audience.
Okay.
So then finally, after they deliberated on it, they allowed me to present, and true enough, when I presented, I got an overwhelming response from the floor.
Okay.
And they really support what I've said. Then and after that, I say also the top management also reviewed all the policies that they have, and Alhamdulillah, they review some of the whatever that I've said, and I think I achieved that.
Okay.
And I was young at that time. I was only about 34.
34.
So 34, trying to tell JKR what's wrong with you, I think it was very tough for me because I risked my reputation also standing on the stage, telling them, because I'm only 34, my experience was very limited.
So I'm just trying to understand and feel this particular situation though. So okay, fine enough. You went to ICU. You had an experience of policy, and obviously you must have been a talent. You sound quite humble about it. But at 34 years of age, you were trying to change policy at JKR. And I think, let's be honest, to tell the truth, that actually project terbengkalai, I think sampai sekarang pun ada. Tapi as a young engineer, you were actually going to touch a very sensitive chord.
Correct. Yeah.
What? I mean, why?
Because as I said, because coming from ICU, looking at how things are being tried, looking at how they try to develop the economy of the country, and where we gone wrong and things like that. So, of course, when I came back to JKR, when I saw certain things that can be corrected, then I try to correct them. But well, nevertheless, I think
at that age, did it ever cross your mind that something that you may do, again, kadang-kadang bila kita muda, kita darah muda, kita
Yeah.
raja, kita rasa that we can do things, be a Superman, but at that age, that level of experience, did it ever cross your mind that something like this, trying to teach the orang tua?
Oh, yeah, it was very tough. In fact, I experienced a palpitation for 6 months because I was
really?
worried that I made some mistake, One little word in my paper can damage my reputation. So because of that, I study, I read a lot of journals and books about the contracts. And I have to do the work only from 12 o'clock midnight because my children, when they go to sleep, then only I can start working. So I will work until 3 o'clock in the morning to just study and read and then write the papers, to make sure that I don't make mistakes. But it sort of built me into something that I think was very useful later on when I was in the corporate world, where I have to face with bigger challenges. And I found that whatever that I have worked on this paper, the one that I read, the books that I read, journals, everything, they are really very useful for me when I cross over to Renong. I was really using them quite comprehensively, to make sure that the project in Renong Group become
Interesting.
Successful.
So we'll talk about some of those projects that you were involved in, but you were with JKR for good 14 years.
14 years.
By which time you would have risen, plus the cucuk menyucuk and mengajar, whatever you're doing, you obviously would have risen to a certain level in 14 years.
Yeah, I was lucky because of the paper that I presented. I caught the attention of the top management.
Okay.
And I think for my batch, I think I was the first to be promoted.
Okay.
And then I got to be the deputy director of JKR Penang.
Okay.
So basically, it's a high level position. And of course, when I was in Penang, then I got a different experience because
Penang.
I say I don't want to look after project. So what I did was, I have 1,000 laborers, island side and also the Penang side, both together, 1,000 laborers. And I said, never mind. I told the engineers, I said, you all look after the project, you look after the contractor, I look after the laborers.
Really?
And then I spent a lot of time looking after the laborers, and I realized that these laborers actually were my teacher. They taught me a lot. And what we thought that we know, because we graduate from universities, but when we mix with them, we see from their perspective, which is very simple and direct. Very direct. So that I think also helped to shape my thinking. That whatever we do, we have to go from the bottom. We don't touch it at the top. Go from the bottom and build the building block from the bottom, and then goes up.
But don't your engineers and your project managers, don't they feel a bit slighted if they know the boss is going all the way to the bottom?
No, they don't mind because they're busy with the project. They're busy with the project, looking after the contractor.
Okay.
And I was involved in looking after my laborers. A lot of them don't have they don't have houses. But we have maybe like 50 units of our quarters being occupied by those pensioners, and they refuse to leave the house. So here I have 50 units of houses, and I have many of my laborers don't have houses.
I see.
So I use that issue to help and bring out those people who are pensioners and bring the laborers into the, because their salary was only about 300 to 400, and actually without the overtime they cannot survive. They cannot survive. So they need to be given overtimes, and that will get them to the level of about 700 to 800 a month.
Okay.
And if they live in the government quarters, they only pay about 10 ringgit. So
10 ringgit.
10 ringgit.
Wow.
So I think that is a big relief for their. So
imagine.
I spend a lot of time helping the laborers, but in the process I learned a lot about the
So all right. So many of our viewers and listeners may not know you as the professional that you were in your career, but I think it's important for us to also understand that you actually were involved in some of the major key infrastructure developments at that time of the 80s and even the 90s.
Yeah,
So I know it's quite humbling for you to say it yourself, but I'm going to be very frank. From what we know of you, you were involved in the building of the second bridge to Singapore, the second bridge to Penang, the Putra LRT, amongst others, even in, I think, the cable car systems. Quite a lot of major infrastructure projects, fair enough. And Alhamdulillah, you were actually leading a lot of those projects. But, Dato, I want to ask you now, if you were to reflect on leaving JKR and then helping to build some of these major infrastructure projects, what were very basic principles that you always carried with you, irrespective of wherever you were building or developing? Maybe one or two that you share.
Okay, the principle that I thought that I maybe would like to share is we have to be honest about what we are doing. In other words, we have to be really focused and don't have any other agenda. If you want to build a second bridge project, for example, to Singapore, then we focus on building the project. We don't have any other agenda. If we have any other agenda come into our, for example, we need to look after this contractor, we need to look after this person or that person, whatever it is, or we have a family members who want to come in and work, and that, if that comes into picture, then I think it's going to be difficult. So I just focus on building the project. And I'm not personal with anyone. I just treat the project as it is, and I'm not personal with anybody that I met.
So, Datuk, cuba cerita apa maksudnya I'm not personal with anyone. What is that? Can you just give us an example?
See, in life, it is inevitable that you tend to be personal. Because, okay, I give you an example. When you were walking on the road anywhere, if you suddenly kicked a rock, then you fell down.
Okay.
So what do? You just get up and walk, isn't it?
Yeah,
so you're not being personal to the rock.
Not being personal to the rock. Okay.
Right. You go, how you treat the rock. You just say, get up and go.
Unless the rock hits someone.
You just, but if you were doing something and then somebody blocked you,
okay,
and a person, or in your family, you try to do something, your family members block you, then you become very personal. You can become personal, what I mean,
Okay.
Then you kata, nantilah, kalau next time you do this to me, I will, if I have the time, I will take my revenge or whatever it is. I will hit back at you. So that is being personal. But what if you treat those people like a rock juga? So you just get up and go.
Okay. Okay.
Whatever the problem, you just get up and go.
Okay.
So that is what I mean by don't be personal.
That's interesting
so
analogy.
that is the concept which I would say.
So your example.
Whole and
your example tadi yang you kata you go down to the labourers, you help them with their housing. That you don't consider it being personal, lah.
No, I don't. It's a job that I have to do.
Okay.
I think I have to help people. I help.
Okay.
Okay. And it's unconditional.
Okay.
Whether they remember me or like me or whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as I achieve the target of putting them into their houses and they're happy, I'm happy.
Okay.
That I achieve my target. Yeah.
So, Dato', I really apologize if this question is going to be a bit sensitive because it's an industry where there's a lot of opportunities and temptations.
Correct.
I want to ask you, Dato', from your experience, how do you handle when someone may have offered to give you an incentive, a bribe?
Okay. I think it is a very pertinent question, which I think, how I see things is a little bit different or what I don't know.
Okay.
But, you see, dia kata power corrupt.
Alright.
Yeah. Power corrupt. Absolute power corrupt absolutely.
Absolute
right?
Power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in other words, if you have power, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're Muslim, you're Christian, or you're Buddhist, or you're Malay, or Indian, or Chinese, or whatever it is. If you got the power, you can be corrupted.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who. It applies to me also.
All right.
So my philosophy is all the power that I have, I don't keep it with me. Whatever power I have, I don't keep it. I distribute it to my staff. So that means I don't have power actually. No, as a CEO of the company, I don't keep any power. I pass it to everybody in the organization. So therefore, I'm no more powerful. When I walk with that kind of mindset, then anything that passed through me in terms of bribery, it doesn't work because I don't have power. So when you hold the power, when you try to keep the power, for example, when I was in a company like UEM Builders, anything that is below 15 million is within my authority. Authority, and I can manipulate that. 2 million is personal. I can sign anything. 2 million. That is even big. I can do a lot of things with 2 million to 50 million. More than 50 million, I go to the board. That's okay. You know. But 50 million and the order book of the company is about 3 billion minimum. 3 billion. And at one time we went up to about nearly 7 billion. We were one of the highest order book in the country, surpassing even IJM and Gamuda at one time because of the Penang Bridge. But I don't keep anything with me. Everything I pass it to the staff. I redistribute to the staff. But of
responsibility
course, yes. In terms of power also, they decide also. I don't want to decide. You know what I mean? So because of that, I don't have power actually. My job is to make sure that everything runs smoothly. That's all. So I took that position, and I'm not disturbed by any offer of bribery and things like that. Of course, there are a lot of temptation and offers and things like that that can come to you. But in my case, I don't have many offers. But you can overcome that quite easily. So in other words, go back to the principle of power corrupt. So don't keep the power.
Don't keep the power with
Just
you.
distribute the power.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Dato, I'm actually trying to also draw on my memory because at that time I also happened to be a member of UEM involved in some of the major projects.
Yes.
I want to draw on this one particular memory that I have very vividly, where you would have needed to execute power. This was, if I can recall correctly, it was at the height of building the Putra LRT.
Correct.
It was close to the Commonwealth Games of 1998.
Correct.
We were about 1.5 years behind schedule.
Correct.
And you took it upon yourself to technically kick out the international consultants who were working on this project, American consultants. For politeness, I better not mention the name. But I can vividly remember when I heard this happening. Of course, I was amazed. You were responsible for making that decision. But Dato, what goes through your mind when you are faced with that and you need to make some decisions like that? Particularly this particular example.
Yeah. I think it was a very tough project. One of the toughest projects that I ever experienced in my life. When I was transferred to Putra, and I was told that the project is 1.5 year delay, and the project cannot be the consultant, the foreign consultant advised our Tan Sri Halim, the boss in Renong, that the project cannot be completed, can only complete right up to PJ Hilton, I think if I'm not mistaken, right? PJ Hilton, and the rest cannot be completed up to Pasar Seni. So when I was asked whether I can complete or not, my answer was just, yes, I can complete. Actually, I didn't know what I was saying to, but I know that they don't want to hear any other answers except to complete the project. And then when I joined the company, at that time was a PLRT, the project management company, which you were also
that's where I was
a member of the company, and I was. Of course, it was run by about 35 of these foreign consultants. Most of them are Salleh lah. I think, to be fair, they have done their part. But to me, from my perspective, is that what they fail to address is the culture of the local culture. So they were running the project like it was in American soil, for example. and they were running it based on American culture. Now, as I said to you, based on my experience working with laborers in JKR, and things like that. So, based on those experiences, I said you have to go back to basic, and also have to go down to the ground. So I went to the ground and start looking at what are the issues of the people, the not only the contractor, the subcontractor and the subcontractors on the ground. So I was looking into that, and when I managed to assemble all the information in data, and then I went up, and then I start calling the everyone at the top level. I think you were one of them also. And I remember Tan Hifang, Mohinder, and Nick Faisal, Hoyok Kong.
All those
So
names
these are the local people.
Yeah.
I said, I think we have an issue where the foreigners is not able to understand our culture. So I think we have to change. So that is where I think I did not actually kick the Salleh out, but actually they were automatically
They were shocked.
they were automatically kicked out due to the way we manage the project using the Malaysian culture. So we go, the Malaysian culture is you have to address the problem at the bottom, because you must understand the people at the bottom first. Then only you talk about correcting the policy. If you don't understand what is happening at the bottom, you cannot correct the policy, no matter what. You try to say whatever policy you want to say, but it won't work because you don't understand the real problem at the bottom. So I think that was actually what happened, and thank God we managed to turn around the whole project, and we completed the project on time before the Commonwealth Games. And I feel but after that I was really exhausted. I was
can imagine.
totally exhausted. I just can't even walk because I was at the site almost until 3 o'clock in the morning. I was walking up and down every day, trying to see what is happening, who is doing what, and things like that. So, but I would say that I was glad that we managed to complete the project on time.
Again, just listening to you brings back so many memories, and it's nice in the context of what we were doing in those days. So I think in a way, leaders today, they may be facing a different type of challenge in terms of context wise, but being courageous to make such decisions with convictions. I rasa I would use the word kederat. Kederat kan. So in hindsight, in reflection, kalau seorang tu nak buat decision yang meyakinkan, yang perlukan kederat tu, what would be two pieces of advice that you would really say, to think about before you build that conviction to make such decisions?
Well, of course, if you want to be the CEO or leader of the organization, you really have to be, orang kata, ready for it. You must have the energy and also the spirit to be the leader. And to be the leader is not about being at the top, being idolized or praised by people at the bottom. That is actually has got zero value. You have to be ahead of everyone in the company. If you want to be a CEO, you have to be ahead of everyone. Meaning you have to work harder than them. And you have to know more than know more, not because you want to show to them that you know more, because you want to be able to help them. Because in the organization, everybody needs support. And sometimes there is some void between them, and that is where the failure start to come in. So you have to fill that void so that people can work together and move. And then, in fact, one of the principles I said is that whenever I go into any organization, the first thing I want them is that I don't want to see I want them to be united. I don't want to see any conflict among themselves. If you want to have any conflict, you have conflict with me. It's okay. You attack me, never mind. But don't attack among yourself.
You're the boss. I want
but
conflict with you.
Correct. But then I say it openly that never mind. You attack me, but I don't want you to be quarrel among yourself. Because that is actually the principle of team building. That is the principle. Without them, I cannot be successful. That's how I see it.
I think in reflection, you had that maybe that aura, I don't know. Maybe it's. I don't want you to admit it, but if I reflect, in fact, I would just jokingly even say, and Dato, actually you used to be known as a Richard Gere.
Okay.
Sorry, but by the ladies, not by the men.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now, so you spent all these years busy with projects, and so how do you manage family? I mean, you have how many children?
I have 4 children.
You have 4 children, all grown up by now, of
All
course.
grown up. No,
So what was it like being that father and busy with projects and yet still having to have time for the family?
That was a problem. I was busy, too busy.
Okay.
I didn't have much time with them.
Okay.
So I leave it to my wife to look after the children.
Okay, Alhamdulillah.
Because as you know, I work almost like sampai pukul 3 pagi, 4 pagi. So jadi, and then pukul 9 I have to be in the office balik.
Okay.
And that is quite orang kata time consuming.
Okay.
But I just hope that my children would understand.
And now you have grandchildren.
I have grandchildren.
How many grandchildren do you have?
I have 5, I think.
5. Everything. Okay. This is just a bit of a side story lah. The viewers may not know, or the listeners may not know. Actually, your children have done very well for themselves. Some have also become personalities. So one of your sons is Aiman Hakim, who's married to Zahira McWilson. But I know there's one story you shared with me once, which is another one of your children, and very, very quickly, Dato', siapa nama dia? Sophia.
Sophia, yeah.
So Sophia was a student in Korea.
Yes.
Many years ago, in the late 2000s.
2002 to 2008, I think. Yeah.
And she was invited to participate in a Korean reality TV show at that time.
Correct.
And apparently she won a contest to, and in that she became very popular.
She was popular, yeah.
Now she's living in Singapore, working in Singapore. But there's a story in between the lines that you shared with me when I first met you, Haitu, talking about what could possibly be reasons how this young Malay girl was eventually picked as the winner.
No, I mean she's not the winner, but she was among the most popular.
Okay.
I was one because it's a reality show where they put the artists on one side, the Korean artists, and then they put the ladies from the various countries, from America, from Italy, and she represented Malaysia.
Oh.
And all these ladies are supposed to speak Korean lah.
Okay.
But some of them cannot speak Korean as fluent as the Korean. So jadi that's where it is interesting. And then they throw a topic and then they will discuss between the artists and also the ladies. And surprisingly, my daughter was like a celebrity, because when I walk around in Seoul with her, everybody would stop her, take picture with her. So
Okay.
so I was. In fact, one day she told me, Abah, he said, the Korean, they know only 2 things. One is Putrajaya, second is Sophia.
Sophia.
So I said, oh, is it really?
Not Mahathir, eh?
Yeah, no Mahathir. So never mind. So what happened was she was popular, and I will share with you the reason. The reason is because of the Islamic value, which I think surprised me a lot.
Oh.
And many of the grandmother and the parents in Korea, they want their children, and most of them will say, okay, you want to grow up, you be like Sophia. Because the problem in Korea is that it's quite rampant on drinking and also on smoking.
Oh.
I think my daughter is the only person who don't smoke and drink. And then she goes to university. So that become the model. That become the icon for the parent and also the grandparent in Korea.
Wow.
And this is something that I think we take for granted in Malaysia. We take for granted because most of our ladies don't drink, and especially the Muslim, they don't even drink, and they don't even smoke and things like that. But we don't realize that this value is actually they held very high up in Korea.
Betul.
But we didn't. In fact, Korean they are looking for religion. They are looking for religion.
Yes.
But
yes.
If you ask the people who went to Korea, they know this. But we never go to Korea and spread the Muslim religion to them. So I think this is something that I'm quite. I would say, I don't say is feel very sad. But here you notice the Malaysian so they think of K-pop.
Yes.
Yeah, we think of
yes,
K-pop.
Yes.
But he didn't realize that over there they have a high orang kata appreciation of the Muslim value.
Muslim values. the
So I
culture.
think this is something that
Okay.
I think we didn't realize, and I think we should try to make these people to understand this cultural difference. And I think if we can sell this Muslim value there, I think we can make some headway
Yeah.
into the society.
by way of example kan.
Yes, correct.
Kan kita dakwah tu macam-macam cara kan.
Yeah, betul.
Interesting.
So I was thinking,
Yeah.
and not many Malaysians realize this.
Yeah.
This is why I think,
And even the Koreans and Japanese have had a long association dengan kita kat Malaysia kan. I mean, there's communities that live there kan.
Yeah.
So there must be, insyaAllah, there's something that we are doing that's good enough for them to want to live here long term also kan.
Yes.
So nice way of looking at it. Thank you, Dato. Wow. So we've moved from your career to your personal life. Gosh, I mean there's a lot of nice stories obviously to talk about. But I also want to cucuk Datuk sikit lah, kan. Minta maaf
Tak apa. Okay.
If you could turn back the clock and maybe go through any point of your life, whether it was career or personal, apa rasanya Datuk would maybe do differently?
Okay. That I think I think I will stick to be an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, because even Lee Kuan Yew said that. Lee Kuan Yew said, if I have an opportunity to turn back the clock, he wants to be an engineer.
Oh, okay. All right.
And he's a lawyer. So I thought engineering is a very good field to go in, and you are taught with a very different, diverse kind of understanding. When you were in UC, you don't really feel it. But after you graduated, you start working, then you realize that a lot of things are. You go out there, you see roads, you see bridges and things like that. So everywhere you see, so I think not only in civil engineering, but also in electronics, mechanical, things like that. I would, to me personally, I would go back. But I don't say that other disciplines are not good.
Okay.
They are lawyers, doctors, and things. They are equally good.
Okay.
But
So what about you, Datuk?
to me, I will go back to become engineer.
So you would still be an engineer. So all right. But surely there must be something yang terkenang ke ataupun Datuk, now that I'm asking this question. I know you're also a bit of a musician also. So okay. But even anything, I just to prick your mind that you given an opportunity, bukan kita tak cukup, given an opportunity, what may it be? Ada tak apa-apa yang keputusan yang Datuk buat ke, or apa segi perjalanan hidup kalau boleh diulang?
Oh, okay. Right.
What would you maybe do differently?
I think the mistake I made was I didn't have a dream. So I think I would advise young people, to have a dream.
Have a dream.
Have a dream. Very important to have a dream, because once you have a dream, whatever you want to be, you want to be a Elon Musk, for example.
Okay.
That is a dream, Then you set yourself into a certain direction. You start working towards it, But nobody tell me this, before. So I don't have any dreams. I just ride along the life, as it goes along, and stumble upon this and that, But I think if we have a dream, I think our life will be more organized, and we will be able to achieve something more meaningful. I was thinking, maybe that is my mistake. I didn't have any dream.
Maybe not a mistake, but terkenang lah kalau katakanlah kan. But I think that's a fair view. Thank you so much, Datuk. So in a nutshell, you shared with us in this short time we've been with you today about your initial years growing up in a relatively difficult situation, getting through those years and becoming qualified engineers. But what I found most intriguing was there's something within you, I feel, that's always curious. There's something within you also, I feel, that's also willing to macam, not challenge authority, tetapi maybe speak up. Maybe berani kerana you rasa benar, I find there's a lot about you also, Dato'. Minta maaf again, I just my reflection of you that you're also quite intrigued and care about people all the way down to the lowest level. Obviously, that would have struck a chord in how you deal with things lah. Kan? And again, inshallah, even though you were in a career or rather industry where they are prone to temptations, inshallah sampai ke hari ni tak adalah apa penyesalan ke or things that you may be embarrassed about. So I really feel that's the essence of today's discussion. I have just one final question. With having grandchildren, and they maybe will watch this on YouTube or listen to it as a podcast. Kalau ada amanat sebagai atuk kepada your grandchildren, what would be maybe the top two messages that you'd like to share with their generation?
My advice would be, first is to have a dream, like what I said. Have a dream, yeah. Set yourself and with a dream that you want to be, what you want to be, and what you want to do. Number two, don't be personal.
Don't be personal.
So, if you set your dream, and then if somebody were to be an obstacle to your dream, don't get personal. Just move on and continue and try and achieve your dream. Until you achieve your dream, you don't stop. So that's basically what I'm trying to advise to my grandchildren. Yeah.
And everyone else's grandchildren also.
Yes, correct.
Gosh, Dato', thank you so much. Sekali lagi, it's a pleasure having you, and I'm so happy that we are having you as our official first guest on this series, and inshallah kalau ada rezeki we may invite you back again if you don't mind.
Okay.
But to our viewers and listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you were enlightened by today's chit-chat dengan Dato Ridza, and hopefully you will continue to support us and look forward to further episodes where we invite other people to share their stories with us. Assalamualaikum. Berjumpa lagi. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.